Good morning. Today I want to talk about feeling wrong, about being wrong. I guess if there's one thing which connects all of us human beings, then it is this one feeling: I am wrong. And each and every one of us has his own or her own special feeling of being wrong, special way of being wrong. It's different for each of us, but in some way I think we all feel like this. If you know me a little bit, then you know that I have been in satsang with Soham for over 20 years. And during that time, every day I saw so many people, thousands of people over the years, and they all had one thing in common. They all felt in one way or another wrong. And that's what they shared in satsang. That's what they talked about. And they believed that they are wrong, that there's something wrong with them and that they need to fix it or improve it. I felt wrong most of my life. And in the beginning I was convinced that, yes, I am wrong. I remember when a relationship ended, I was convinced it was my fault. And I tried to find out how I can improve, how I can become better so it works. And then there was a time where I discovered that this can't be true. I can't be true that I'm wrong. But the feeling of being wrong stayed. And then a new phase started. I tried to get rid of this feeling of being wrong. I tried to find out where this feeling originated, where it came from. I made psychotherapy. And although this is a lot of fun, it didn't help. And it's very expensive. And I still felt wrong. Many people have this funny idea that a spiritual person, a cool person, maybe even a successful person, these people don't feel wrong. Maybe you think, somebody like Michael, he does these cool videos. If I could only be like him, he doesn't feel wrong. That's not true. I still feel wrong to this day. Sometimes, again and again. During the last 23 years, my time with Soham and with Swamiji, I learned to be happy. I learned to love myself, to accept myself. I am happy. I feel carried, taken care of. But this feeling of being wrong is still there. So you're in good company, in very good company. Also Soham, my beloved master, he's such an amazing human being. Admired by so many people. And I know him very closely. one of the wonderful qualities of him is that he never pretended to be different than he is. Like a child, he always showed himself the way he is. So I experienced him a lot in just this feeling, when he felt wrong. And it still happens to him to this day. One trigger, one situation, and there it is again, this feeling. And the greatest of all, for me at least, Swamiji. Such an amazing being, Jesus-like for me. When you know his autobiography, the books he wrote about what he experienced in his life during his search for God, he has this innocent, direct, childlike way of just writing how it is for him. And you will read how he felt incapable, how he felt not right, not good enough. This giant of humanity. Also he knows this feeling very well, it seems. So, once we figure out that we are not actually wrong, we are very busy trying to find a way to get rid of this feeling of being wrong. And it doesn't work. I know nobody, not one person, not one human being who doesn't feel like this. You need to find an honest person to find this out. Most people pretend to be happy. But then when you start knowing them a little bit, you discover, oh, they are just like me. They feel just like I feel. There's an old story in the Bible which sheds light on this issue. One of the very first stories, one of the most ancient stories in the Bible. I love these stories because to me they describe humanity. They describe how it is to be a human being. I used to find these stories very strange, very repulsing almost, because I felt that they judge me. I felt that they talk about humans and how wrong they are. And only now, only lately, only during the last few years, where Swamiji taught me his way and his meditation, only through this meditation, which I'm doing now since 6 years, slowly, I don't know how it works, I don't know how it's possible, I begin to understand and read these old stories in a totally different, new way. And I love these stories in the Bible, not because I'm a hardcore Christian or Jesus fanatic. I'm nothing like this. Basically, all of my life I was non-religious. I grew up in a home where religion and God had no place. My parents basically were atheists. So I was always very critical towards these stories and traditions. Only lately I discover, wow, I discover the truth in many of them. And I love to share about this, because I notice how these Christian stories are so close to us people in the West, because we grow up with them. Even when you are, like I am, non-religious, even when you don't see yourself as a religious person, you're still part of this culture, you're still part of this Christian energy, whether you like it or not. And I noticed for myself how these stories and how Jesus, how all this touches me. And I don't even understand why. And the reason is, we grow up in this culture, in this Christian culture. And that's the gift of this religion, that it preserves for us these old truths, even though we don't even feel part of this culture or this religion. It doesn't matter, it happens anyway. Yes, and that's why I love to talk about my insights about these stories. So, there's this old story, you know it, the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden Eden. Adam and Eve in paradise. Now the story is not about a man called Adam or a woman called Eve. Adam and Eve, they are symbolic and they stand for the first human beings. They describe how humans were from the very beginning. Whatever you hear about Adam or Eve is about you and about me. So there's Adam in the Garden Eden, and everything is great. He's in paradise. God comes and visits every day. They have a good time. It's just paradise. It's just heaven. But then one day something strange happens. God comes, as he used to come every day, and he looks for Adam, but he can't find him. And he looks around and said, Adam, where are you? And then, very tentatively, very scared, Adam, who was hiding behind a bush or a tree, he said, hello, here I am. And God says, Adam, what's wrong? Why are you hiding? And Adam said, because I'm naked. And God said, who told you that you are naked? When Adam said, because I'm naked, he says, I hide because I'm wrong. I hide because something is wrong with me, and I can't come before you like this. And in that moment, that's when the separation between humans and God happened. Humans discovering, believing that there's something wrong with them. It's not true, of course. And you can see this by God's reaction. He said, who told you that you're naked? God said, who told you that you're wrong? Such a nonsense. Come on. What do you say? This is not true. But it doesn't help. This human being, us, every one of us, believes started believing I'm wrong. And I love the story because it tells me this is our human condition from the very beginning. I always believed that me feeling wrong is caused by some childhood drama, caused by my parents doing something wrong with me. And of course I had my childhood dramas like you, and of course my parents did many things wrong, just like your parents. But this is not where this feeling comes from. This feeling is old. Jesus says, the sins of the father are passed on to the son. And what he means by this is exactly that. He says, this our basic human condition, our basic human misunderstandings, the basics which started at the very beginning, in that moment where humans were created, these are passed on. That's where they come from Adam, from Eve. That means it was part of us humans from the very beginning. So it's not my fault, it's not the fault of my parents that I feel like this. And for me this is helpful. When I discover where something comes from, it's easier for me to understand what I can do to deal with it. If I think it's my parents' fault or my childhood's fault, then I do psychotherapy or all kinds of things. And they don't help. It's a waste of energy and time and money. And it's not that Adam did something wrong to feel wrong. You know, that's what I believed. I believed that humans made a mistake. And now somehow we have to rectify this mistake. And the word mistake has this moral inclination, this, we are bad, we did something bad. But you can see on God's reaction in paradise that this can't be true. The word sin, in its original meaning, does not mean something bad. Sin means going the wrong way, taking the wrong turn, losing the right way, out of ignorance. And the word repent, in its original meaning, means turning around. It means, you discover, that's the wrong way. Somebody sent me down the wrong way, I just turn around. It's meant like this, without judgment. So what we know as the original sin is this. This moment where we started believing I'm wrong. Now it's interesting to ask the question, how did that happen? If it wasn't a mistake on our part, a sin, how does it happen? Why is it like this? And I want to continue with the story about from the Bible, because this is such an old, amazing wisdom. There's the story, when Adam ate from the fruit of the forbidden tree, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the tree of knowing. And once he ate from that tree, he started feeling wrong. And by feeling wrong, he was unable to show himself to God because he was ashamed. And with this, all of our troubles as humans started. Since then, we feel separate from God. Since then, we feel wrong. And all the trouble we experience inside of us and in the world come from that. Now, how did this happen? Why did this happen? There's something which distinguishes us humans from all other creatures in this world. And it is this ability to reflect on ourselves, this ability to know ourselves, to realize, oops, I'm. This is me. This tree Adam was eating from was the tree of recognition, this ability to see oneself. It wasn't a bad tree. That this tree was forbidden had a different reason. Humans came to this earth because of this ability to recognize him or herself. And the reason why God said, Adam, don't eat from that tree. You can do everything you want in paradise, anything. Don't eat from that. And the reason why God said this was that God knew Adam is not ready. There was a good reason for this tree to be in paradise. But God knew Adam is not quite ready for that. But of course, Adam couldn't listen, and he was curious, and that's how it all started. So we human beings have this amazing ability to look at ourselves. And the way I explain this to me, why this happened, is I want to share this with you, but I want to warn you, this might sound childish, and it might not be true exactly like I say it now, but it is my way to understand this. And it's helpful for me, even if it's not 100% accurate, maybe. For me, it's like this. In our true essence, we are consciousness. We are consciousness, which is the ability to perceive, the ability to recognize. This is what we are. This is God. So there you have this amazing consciousness, this amazing energy, which we call God. But this amazing consciousness doesn't know anything about itself, because to see something, to perceive something, to become conscious of something, you need to be a little bit separate of it. There needs to be a little bit of distance, because you and that which you're looking at. And without this slight distance, without this little bit of separation, you can see something. So there's this great consciousness, amazing, but totally ignorant of itself. And one day this consciousness said, I want to experience myself. So this consciousness decided to do exactly what I just described, create a little bit of separation between itself and itself, which is how humans came into reality. Humans are a little particle of this consciousness, a little particle of God, and by being separate from God a little bit, and at some point remembering why we do this game and turning around, looking back where we came from, discovering ourselves, discovering God again. This is the moment where God begins to experience him or herself. And for this to be possible, for this beautiful game, we as humans, as these little particles of this great oneness, we got this ability to see ourselves. But with this ability, everything becomes possible. We can see ourselves in our true nature, God seeing himself. But at the same time, with the same ability, comes the possibility for any sort of misunderstanding. Adam ate from the fruit, which means he acquired this ability. But he wasn't ready to look into the right direction. What he did is, he looked at his human nature. He looked at his body. He looked not at himself as God. He looked at himself as that where this God particle was living in this body. And he noticed, oh my God, I'm a body. Up to that point, he didn't know anything about himself. Eve didn't know anything about herself. They were one with God. That's the part of the story where it says God visited with them every day. They were connected. They were one. But in that moment where Adam and Eve, the first human beings, began to be able to look at themselves, they didn't look in the direction of their godliness, but at this body, at this human nature, at this world. And what they saw there was not God-like. And they began to judge it. And that said in this one sentence, oh, I'm naked. This being naked stands for, oh, I'm human, I have faults, I'm not this unlimited God, this perfection. I'm a body. So with this amazing ability came also the possibility to judge. And that's what we did. And the story in the Bible said, from the very beginning, from the moment we got this ability, we judged ourselves wrong. That's the beauty of this Bible story. This Bible story tells you, hey man, hey woman, or whatever you feel like, you feel wrong. But this is not because you're wrong. This is not your fault. It's not your parents' fault. This is part of being human. It is like we came into these bodies. God comes into these bodies to realize himself. And part of this amazing game is that now, in our current human condition, we feel wrong. It's like we got a tool. We got the tool to complete the task why we came here into this existence, but we haven't learned how to use the tool. It's like a hammer, A hammer is an amazing tool if you want to get a nail into a wall. It's much better than using your fist. It's very painful to use your fist with a nail. But with a hammer, it's very easy because the hammer is very heavy and very hard. And if you swing the hammer against the nail, it's easy to get the nail into the wall. But if you have the hammer in your hand and you let go of the hammer while the hammer is above your foot, it will be very painful for you. So you have to learn how to deal with the hammer. If you swing the hammer the wrong way, you hit your thumb, and it will hurt. And that's what we humans are doing with the tool of this amazing consciousness we have, this ability to see, to reflect. So there's nothing wrong. That's why I love these old stories. They tell us there's nothing wrong. Let me tell you about how it really is. Yeah. Of course, the church, the priests, they misunderstand these stories. They don't know the true meaning because they haven't discovered who they really are. And then they can't understand these stories in the right way. But that's what they mean in their original sense. Now, for me, there are two questions. How do I deal with this feeling of being wrong? That's the first question. And I was very, very lucky in this life. I still am very lucky in this life. It's just so amazing. 23 years ago, I came to my spiritual master Soham. And one of the first things I learned from him was exactly that. How to deal with this ancient feeling of being wrong. It was after I was with him 1 or 2 years. And I tried, I began to know myself, being with him. And I discovered the true dimension of my feeling wrong. And I didn't know what to do with it. And he said, if you're willing to feel wrong, then you're free. And I was like, wow. I have to find out. This was a totally new idea for me. To that moment, to that day, I tried to get rid of this feeling of being wrong. I try to fix it. I try to prove to myself that I'm not wrong, and I try to feel better. So I started following his advice, and I learned to make friends with this feeling. I learned to not reject this feeling, not running away from it. I began to make friends with it. Whenever this feeling arose, and there were plenty of opportunities for this, I stopped and gave it my attention and began to feel it and actually invite it to be here. I made friends of this fear. I made friends with the fact that I'm wrong. Of course, I'm not wrong, but if it feels like this, you need to make friends with this conviction. So I made friends with feeling wrong. And this had amazing consequences in my life. My entire life changed. When I began to befriend this fact that I'm wrong, when I began to make friends with this feeling of being wrong, I discovered how much effort I used to put into the attempt to not feel wrong, into the attempt of convincing others that I'm okay. How much energy I used to make sure that others think I'm okay and not wrong. How many things I tried to hear from others that I'm okay and not wrong. Of course, it never worked. It never worked. But this advice from Soham, it was such a good advice. It changed everything. My relationships, my friendships, they changed. Because I made friends with myself, with my wrongness, so to speak. And with this, I was not scared of showing myself to others anymore. Like Adam, he had to hide. I didn't have to hide anymore. And everything became easy. All my friendships, all my relationships, all my interactions, no matter where, they became easy and delightful. Yeah, this was really good advice, and I'm so happy to pass this on. You are not wrong, but it doesn't help to know this. If you feel that you're wrong, the best thing you can do is accept it and make friends with it. But it didn't get rid of this feeling for me, you know. As I said in the very beginning of this video, there's this funny idea many people have that a spiritual person is beyond these feelings. The contrary is true. A wise person knows him or herself, makes friends with all these human things. And this brings me to the second question. I said earlier, there are two questions for me with this understanding which comes about the story from Adam and Eve in paradise. The first question was, how do I deal with this feeling of being wrong, which obviously is part of humanity from the very beginning? But the second question, and the much more interesting question is, how do I deal with this tool we got from God? Yeah? This ability to reflect, this ability to be conscious about ourselves, which is ultimately the ability of God to discover himself. God, consciousness, to experience itself. I don't like the word God because for me the word God is so person-like, as if God is a person. The Indians have another word. They use the word Paramatma. It has nothing to do with any person or being. It describes life energy. I like this better. That's why I always try to use another word along with the word God. Yeah. So how can we learn to deal with this amazing ability we have as human beings, so we don't end up in hell, but return to heaven? That's all hell is. The inability to deal with this tool. And the answer to this came to me when Swamiji came into my life. I told you before that since 23 years I'm with Soham, the spiritual master of my life, and he taught me so many amazing things. But this I didn't learn from him. 6 years ago, Swamiji, a guru from India, came into my life and into Soham's life. Actually, he came into Soham's life, and through this, he came also into my life, which is the greatest blessing. And he brings that answer. How to deal with this tool, how to handle this hammer the right way, how to use this hammer and not hitting our own thumb, not letting it fall onto our own foot, but use it as intended. And the way to learn this is the Samarpan meditation. This is the meditation Swamiji discovered during his many years of wandering around in the Himalayas and meeting 11 gurus. It's an amazing story, which I will also tell in my videos very soon when I want to start reading from these books, reading from these autobiographies. It's amazing. It's so much fun. But anyway, this Samarpan meditation, which I learned from Swamiji, which is a totally simple meditation. By doing that, we learn this. Now, this meditation is nothing like what you might think meditation is. What we usually know as meditation is usually good stuff. It's nice to do this. It's helpful in some ways. But it is not what Swamiji calls meditation. For me, I tried many meditations in my life, but nothing is like this. For me, this is the only true meditation, because there you don't do anything. It's like the contrary of doing. Everything comes and happens completely by itself. And doing this meditation, this is something you do first thing every day in the morning for half an hour. More is not needed. And just by doing this particular meditation, what happens is that very, very slowly, inside of you, you learn a new ability. It's like you learn to shift your attention away from that where your attention normally always is, on this world, on this body, on everything you perceive as you. Yeah, usually we think, okay, I'm this body, I have thoughts, I have wishes, I have hopes and dreams and pains and delights. That's me. That's what Adam started thinking when he was in paradise. Oh, that's me, he said. And in the next moment, oops, I'm naked. Oh my God, I have to hide. So we are identified with this earthly existence, and we are totally identified with it. And we have no way to get out of this identification. It's not possible. But when we do this meditation, it's like a secret passage opens. You don't know this guru, you don't know Swamiji, you have never been to India, and you don't have to go to India. But it's like by doing this meditation, just by sitting there every morning for half an hour, not doing anything spiritual, it's like this ability of Swamiji to handle the hammer, to handle the tool, is slowly transferred to you. This is nothing esoteric. This is nothing spiritual. It's actually something totally normal, and you know it yourself. It's like when I spoke about it in another video, when you learn a craft, like if you learn carpentry, you go to a carpentry master, and he teaches you how to use the tools. But the essence you learn from this master is not the things he talks about, not the things he shows you, but the things he embodies. His love for the tools, his love for the wood, his ability to see the wood, his ability to perceive how the wood needs to be treated and carved to become as beautiful as possible. This is something you can't learn by words and by books, but you learn it anyway when you are with a good master of carpentry. It's normal. This is a normal transmission of knowledge, so to speak. Yeah, or when you're in school and you have a teacher who really loves his subject he's teaching, and so you learn the enthusiasm and the openness and the curiosity from this man or this woman teacher. But you don't learn it through words, you don't learn it through the books. You learn it, it's like a direct transmission from one human being to another. It's something totally normal. It's nothing esoteric. And it's the same with this learning. You need to find somebody. Somebody has to come into your life who knows how to handle this particular hammer, this tool. Now, these people are very rare. And Swamiji is one of these rare people. And he's the greatest of them, as far as I can tell. So I did this detour right now talking about the meditation because I wanted to show you that this is something totally normal, this way of learning. By doing this meditation, you begin to, it's like your consciousness begins to look into the right direction. Yeah, you don't only look at this body, at your feelings, at this world, but suddenly a new looking starts. Suddenly you begin to perceive something inside, which has nothing to do with this body, nothing to do with you and your thoughts, nothing like this. And the longer you do this meditation, I mean, you do it only half an hour every day, but then you do it every morning. And over the month, over the years, slowly, more and more, you begin to discover your true identity. There's the moment where you notice, there's something else. I am something else. I don't know anything about this, but I am something else. Swamiji says, you are a soul. The word Swamiji uses for this, we usually don't know, is soul. Soul is a beautiful word. It's like when you have a wire. The soul of the wire is the innermost threads which you can see from the outside. That's what it means. It's the innermost thing you usually never see. That's your soul. And doing this meditation, you begin to, you are given the ability to perceive this core of you, the soul, which you usually are not able to perceive. And then this grows. Over the years, this grows. And you begin to realize what you truly are. I want to share a meditation experience I had a while ago. The meditation is not about having great experiences. This is another misconception about meditation. It's not that you should sit down in order to have something really great going on. That's what usually people think. No, the meditation is about just sitting down, letting go of all of these funny ideas, letting go of all the wishes, also letting go of the wish to have a good meditation. Just sit there. You put your attention here at the crown of your head, and you forget everything. You just surrender, you just become open. And whatever you think, you let go again and again and again. I just wanted to mention this as a word of cautious, because so many people think it's about having a good experience. The good experiences come into your life slowly, indirectly. Yeah. So, the other day when I was meditating, and I had my attention on my crown chakra, and for me usually it is like this, that in the beginning there are just thoughts. And I let them go. I don't follow them. And it becomes quiet. And the next thoughts come and I let them go. And then I think really stupid thoughts about what I could say in the next video and I let them go. Because I I have no clue what I will say in reality. And it goes like this for 10 minutes, for 20 minutes. And then it becomes quiet. And then I begin to feel the crown chakra more and more, and I begin to perceive something which you can't describe. I just notice, there is something. Something I don't know. Something I can't say anything about it. Something I can't think anything about. And in this particular meditation, I began to perceive this very directly. And there was this moment where I had this amazing recognition. It's like, oh wow, that's me. And at the same time, this realization, I don't know anything about this. And this is all very subtle, It's just a feeling, just a very subtle feeling, not an image, not colors, not words, just you perceive this space there and you notice this formless space. Suddenly you feel like, wow, this is me. And I felt like, oh, I know nothing about this. I want to get to know this more. I want to become more open for this. I want to discover this more. And this is what this meditation is about. It happens by itself. And I talk more about how this meditation is being done in another video, or how you can learn this. It's just all too much for one video. And I talk too long already anyway. And by discovering your true identity, this, what we usually think we are, loses its power. It becomes less important. It's still there, yeah? But we are not so much identified with it anymore. And this is the answer to the second question I had earlier. By doing this meditation, by discovering my true identity, and by nurturing this ability to perceive my true identity, this ability grows and over time becomes stronger and stronger, very slowly, by itself. And at the same time, this false assumption that I'm this body, that I'm wrong, loses its importance. It is not that I don't feel wrong occasionally anymore. I do. And I do quite easily, Sometimes one look from my partner is enough, and I feel wrong. Of course, she doesn't think that I'm wrong. She thinks I'm wonderful. I don't know why she thinks this, but she does. But sometimes one look is enough, and I think, oh, I'm wrong. So it's still there. And that's just part of being human. I mentioned before that Swamiji, he was in the Himalayas meeting so many different gurus. And all of these gurus said, as long as we live in these bodies, as long as we do this, we are to some degree identified with it. And with this identification comes the feeling of being wrong. Because with this identification comes the certainty that I'm not God. And then you are not perfect, you're wrong. It's just part of the territory, so to speak. So this doesn't go away. But when you start being rooted in your true identity, when this is something you experience every morning in a subtle way, all these other things become unimportant. They're still there, but they have no grip anymore. So this is the way to learn to handle this amazing tool we got when we became humans. This is what distinguishes humans from animals. This tool, this ability to perceive ourselves. And once you begin to realize who you really are, then you begin to look into the right direction. It's like that's the moment when God begins to look back at him or herself. It's like God went out into existence to forget himself. God needs to forget himself, otherwise he can't discover himself. It's not possible. If you want to look at a tree, as long as you think you are the tree, you can't look at yourself. It's not possible. So God goes out into the existence which he created or she created for this very purpose, for this game. God forgets him or herself, gets the gift of self-recognition, but looks into the wrong direction, into the world, into the forgetfulness. And then learns to handle this tool. And through this learning, turning around, looking into the right direction, for the first time, looking back at him or herself. God is not female and not male. God looking back at itself, I should say. And with this, all the troubles end. Yeah. And that's why I like this old story of the Bible so very much. It tells us our basic challenge we have as humans. The story explains to us what happened to us, why we are in the misery we feel. It explains to us the challenge we have. And once we understand this, it is easier to find the right way. So, I know you feel wrong. If you are a little bit like me, I know you feel wrong just as I do. But it's okay. Actually, it's a good sign. It means that you're human. When you feel wrong, it means you got the gift of self-recognition. And that's why we are here. Now you just have to learn how to turn around, how to use the hammer. That's easy. Everything is fine. I apologize for talking so long. But this is so close to my heart, this subject, that I just couldn't stop. I'm sorry. Thank you that you're here. Thank you for listening.